From the studios of Tucson Business Radio X, recorded in the Stewart Title corporate offices on Broadway, you are now listening to The Mark Bishop Show. And now here's your host, Mark Bishop.
Welcome to another podcast on the BRX Network. Have you ever considered leaving America, if you could, and setting up somewhere else? Well, a lot of people are, and in fact do. My guest is the publisher of the very successful online newsletter magazine titled Escape Artist, and he's also a seasoned traveler. Big hi and welcome to Mikkel Thorup.
Hi there, Mark. Thanks so much for having me today.
Welcome. Mikkel, you've been in the expats and offshore space a very long time. In fact, you left school at a young age and started traveling around the world solo in your teens. What was the magnet for you then?
Well, I was diagnosed with a learning disability when I was a child, so I didn't go through education the way other people would, you could say. So when I was probably about 6 or 7 years old, the principal and the teachers and the resource teachers, they gathered me aside and they said, Mikkel, something doesn't work the same in your brain as it does in other kids. And what we want to do is we want to send you to a special school for special boys. That's what they did, Mark. They put me on a little white bus and I took the little white bus across town every day for 3 years. And I got picked on and I got in fights. And, the problem was it actually wasn't a special school. It was actually a regular school with just a special class. So like I said, there was a lot of problems there. And I ended up leaving, like you said, at a very young age. And my father had always told me when I was growing up that traveling was the greatest thing he ever did in his life. And I always wondered to myself, okay, well, why, if it was so amazing, why did you do just a little bit of it when you were 20 something, and then you kind of stopped. So I started traveling and I agreed with him. I think he's right. Traveling and exploring the world is the greatest thing ever. But my difference was I didn't stop. So I've been at this for around 21 years now. And I've traveled to 104, 105 countries at last count. And I've lived in 8 different countries. I've actually circumnavigated the planet more than 400 times. That's
amazing. Well, you have lived in 8 different countries, 20 years straight, and if I may mention some of them, Colombia, North Korea, Zimbabwe, Uganda, El Salvador, and Iran. I mean, you can add to that if you wish.
Yeah, those are all the countries. Those are some of the countries that I've been to. For the countries that I've lived in, I lived in Singapore, I lived in Australia, New Zealand. I lived in the Arctic for 366 days.
Wow.
I lived in the Middle East for 8 years straight in Abu Dhabi. And now I'm based out of Panama. I've moved my family to Panama, going on almost a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful country. I love it here.
Well, it's a secret passion of mine. And that's why I was so excited to be able to interview you. I've lived in some islands off Australia and the country of Vanuatu, which was voted happiest place
on earth. I know
Vanuatu
very, very well.
I
built the USS President Coolidge, and I help people with citizenship and residency in Vanuatu. It is just a stunning, stunning place.
That's fabulous. It is a third world country, though. You have to get used to living in third world countries. Very different, because we're quite spoiled, aren't we? It's a whole thing. But there you go. See, so circumnavigated the planet more than 400 times, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about somebody that knows. Look, there's no doubt, Mikkel, that you walk the talk, as they say. There's many fake gurus out there.
It's true. It's true.
People who have only written about things, but never done it themselves. And you're not impressed with that at all, are you?
No, I think there's just a lot of fake people out there on the internet. I think that, a lot of armchair people, they might go out there and read about things and research it, which, I love reading and I love research. But I mean, you got to actually see things and do things for, with your own 2 hands. I've been working in this space for a while now, and, I have the background in it. So I think that when people come to me for advice, this is not anecdotal stuff. This is stuff that I've really done in my own life, or I work with the professionals. I work with all the lawyers and the accountants and the CPAs who do all the structures. And, I work directly with the heads of the banks, the vice presidents of the banks, to do all these types of structures.
Mm-hmm.
And, we can get into kind of how some of these things work, or maybe the reasons why, like it's up to you. But I think that you're right. Working with someone who actually knows what they're talking about from firsthand experience is super, super valuable.
Oh, very much so. It's like having a hand on your shoulder. Now, we'll get into all of that a little later. I am interviewing you now, though. You're in Panama. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Downtown Panama City. I love it here. It's beautiful.
I'm hearing a lot of good reports about Panama. Now, out of the countries that you have lived, not just traveled through, do you have a favorite one? And if so, why?
Okay, so that's a challenging question because every country that I've lived in, they all do have a special place in my heart. You can kind of reflect back to a time, where I was when I was, in my teens, where I was when I was in my 20s, now in my late 30s, what countries mean different things for me. Abu Dhabi was amazing while I was there, but then I met my wife and we decided to have a family, and the things that mattered to me when I was a single bachelor, were not really applicable anymore. I have a small daughter. She's about 4 years old now. And it's just, the Middle East just wasn't really what we wanted. We would like to raise our daughter to be an entrepreneur. We looked at the languages, like, for example, my wife is from mainland China. I'm Canadian with Danish heritage. I met my wife in Germany. We got married in Africa.
Good Lord.
My daughter was born in Abu Dhabi, and now we live in Panama.
What a mix. That's amazing.
That, international lifestyle. That's just, like it sounds pretty crazy, but I mean, when you're an expat, these kind of things just happen, they just kind of fall into place.
Right. Well, of course, I'm from Australia originally, but I married an American. So, I've been here quite a few years now, but I'm an expat, aren't I?
Absolutely.
As I'm interviewing you now, you're in Panama. Now, every country is different. I mean, there's always a bit of good and a bit of bad. They say there's no place like home, You head up Escape Artist. I've been following this particular magazine for years. Did you start this thing or did you buy it later on?
No, so Escape Artist started as a business in the 90s as a publishing company. In 1997, they were registered as a domain and started putting their content out online. I took over the company about 13 months ago, I want to say, and we've basically tripled the size of it in that 13 months.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. I work about 15 hours a day, 6.5 days a week. But I mean, I really believe in the message. I believe in Escape Artist, and I believe in helping people to legally reduce their taxes and move overseas and explore the world. And, kind of the things that I've dedicated my entire life to, Mark.
Well, escapeartist.com, folks, it's the oldest and largest offshore website in the world. Was started nearly 25 years ago to provide premium offshore intelligence to help people live the life of their dreams. You go to a dinner party or wherever and you talk to people and we're moving. Well, where are you going? We're going to Panama, or we're going down to, you pick another country. And I mean, how do you do that? I mean, what's involved? What about health? What about taxes? What about this? What about that? And this is where Mikkel, with his, escapeartist.com, his goal is to help people just like you to generate additional streams of income, maybe to eliminate your tax bill and to take advantage of offshore structures. And you really do need to know your business to be able to do this, because people could end up in a lot of strife, couldn't they?
Absolutely. Well, everything you said is 100% correct. Everything that we do is 100% legal. We work with the lawyers, with the service providers, with the CPAs. Even if we have an idea of how something is done, I have a client who comes to me or comes to someone on my team. The first thing we do is, okay, we look at it from the tax perspective. We look at it from the legal perspective. We have a law team that works for us, or works with us, I should say. So, there's a lot of misconceptions about these things, about moving offshore or moving overseas, how you do these types of things. We follow the letter of the law. Philosophically, I'm quite a hardcore libertarian. I believe that tax is theft, but I still follow the law of the land. I want more freedom, not less freedom. So I'm not going to break the law. Right. I'm certainly not going to help anyone else break the law.
Well,
there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And,
there is.
And that's what we're about.
There is. And you are inspiring businesses and investors, also with your very popular podcast, the Expat Money Show. And you do interview successful expats who are building their lives and businesses overseas. And previous guests, in fact, include people like Jim Rogers and Doug Casey. What do you find as the common denominator with these types of people, Michael? Tell me.
Well, I do see that libertarian vein that runs through a lot of the international space. I think that once you get out there in the world and you start exploring, you understand that different countries and cultures, there's a lot to be said about their way of life. They're not these backwards little places like a lot of people want to think. We have 193 sovereign nations in the world recognized by the United Nations. And it's like, it's not just Canada and the US and Australia and New Zealand that are free countries. Actually, there's a lot of countries out there that are free. And I think that once you get into, the international space or expat space or offshore space, however you want to phrase it, you do see a lot of that libertarianism come through. And then, on the same kind of vein is the Austrian School of Economics, which is the financial side of how everything fits together, the policy that goes with this. So those are the types of things that I really look towards and I study, and those are my guiding force, you could say.
Tell me about your book. Listen to this, folks. Expat Secrets: How to Pay Zero Taxes, Live Overseas, and Make Giant Piles of Money. Wow.
Yeah, humble title, I know. But you got to get people's attention, but it's really true. It's really true. Even as Americans, a lot of Americans, okay, so very briefly, Americans are taxed on worldwide income. It's basically a citizenship-based taxation. There's only two countries in the world who fall under this, the United States and Eritrea. And Eritrea has been known for multiple human rights violations. So it's really just the U.S. In the developed world who follow this. But even the strategies that we talk about in the book and, on the podcast and on the blog on escapeartist.com, we can help with this. We can actually legally reduce your tax bill. And it's quite exciting, because a lot of people think that, they will be a tax slave forever. They'll be giving away, like I said, I'm from Canada. We pay upwards of 40%, 50% when you add in property taxes and VAT and GST, PST, all of these types of other taxes. That's half of your income that is going to support, socialist programs. I believe in helping others and doing your part, but I mean, I believe in doing it voluntarily, not at the point of a gun. I believe in not doing it with the threat of violence, which is really what government is.
Well, I agree with taxes because it gets things done, but a fair share, I think, that's more to the point, don't you think?
Well, I think that a lot of the money that comes from taxes doesn't go where people think it goes.
Right.
Like I'm not a pacifist by any means, but I mean, going into foreign countries to invade them, that's wrong. It's really, really wrong. I've been to a lot of these countries and I've seen the people and I've met the people, and I can tell you straight up, this is not the axis of evil.
Right.
I've been to Iran. I spent 2 weeks in Iran. They're the most beautiful human beings on planet Earth.
Yeah, it's their heads. Well, look, I want to get through a lot more with you here, and I don't have that much time. So, but I know what you're saying. I really want to. You're doing a wonderful thing that I want to share with my listeners with the Offshore Escape Summit coming up. So I really want to get onto that. But as a matter of interest, folks, that crazy name we talked about, Expat Secrets: How to Pay Zero Taxes, Live Overseas, and Make Giant Piles of Money. It was the #1 bestseller on Amazon for more than 17 weeks. So there you go. Correct. It's got something to that. And you can find out a lot more about Mikkel on the www.expatmoneyshow.com. Now, before we get into the Offshore Escape Summit, this comes up on June 1st to June 5th. Let's talk about why you've worked so hard to put this together in the first place, Mikkel. You got started in the 90s, right? The internet and the ease of finding information. It was not what it is today, correct?
That's true. Like when I started traveling, the smartphones certainly didn't exist. I started traveling in 2000, and I remember having to send postcards and things like that to communicate with my family. And when I wanted to learn something, we had the public library. That was about it. So a lot of it was just done, by reading and researching or doing it with your own two hands. Now things that took me 20 years to learn, other people can learn, in day, in a week, in a month. The transfer of information is so fast.
Well, you're honest about the fact that you made a ton of mistakes. You made some bad decisions. You wasted a lot of time, energy, effort, and money. And I mean, over that 20 years, that's all hard learned, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that a lot of people believe, Mark, that the best way to learn something is from your own mistakes. And actually, I disagree with this phrase. I disagree with this saying. I think the best way to learn something is from someone else's mistakes. So my invitation to you is, don't go out there and make all the same mistakes that I did that took me 20 years to get through. Go out there and learn from other people's mistakes. Learn from people who have already been there. It's a shortcut through this.
Folks, what I'm talking about, it's called the Offshore Escape Summit, of which, in fact, Mikkel is the host of this Escape 2020 online summit. What an opportune time right now. The Offshore Escape Summit. You can listen to this, watch this in the comfort of your own home. And, maybe it's your favorite bar who just opened up a little bit in the States, as long as you're 10 feet apart, or in the park. This is what the summit is here for. It's to be your shortcut to taking your business, perhaps investments, and your life, of course, different lifestyle, offshore, in the fastest, easiest, and most efficient way possible. I guess that's it in a nutshell, Mikkel, right?
Yep, we have 26 speakers scheduled over the 5 days, June 1st to June 5th. If you go to offshoreescape.com, you can register. The best part is actually the whole summit is free. I feel like I'm on a mission here to help people and to make sure that as many people get this information as possible, because I think it's so, so valuable and so important. So all the presentations, to watch them live, are 100% free. If you want to have lifetime access to the recordings plus a whole bunch of other bonus, there is a paid option, but it's not mandatory. You can just come in, check it out, see if this is for you, if this speaks to you, if you want to live overseas. We talk a lot about international real estate, about the tax structures, about the offshore banking, basically how everything fits together. 26 speakers all have an individual topic, and we kind of make the connections, how these all fit together.
Well, as you say, it's not just you. You've gathered 26 of the smartest and most experienced offshoring and expat professionals in the world to share their essential insights at the summit. Your biggest priority, I believe, for the Offshore Escape Summit is to help anyone make the move offshore as quickly and as easily as possible. So whether you're interested in making the move offshore due to taxes, new investment opportunities perhaps, privacy, protection, adventure, retirement, hey, even the weather, then the summit is for you, because from what I can ascertain, Mikkel, these 26 are going to cover it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And the really nice thing is, maybe you're like, I would like to retire overseas in, I'm going to pick a country, Mexico, in 5 years from now. Well, that's okay. Start reading and researching now. We're going to cover that. If you only want to maybe have an investment outside of the States or outside of whatever country you live in, we're going to show you how to make some investments outside of the country. There's baby steps and there's things for people who want to go all in. We kind of cover the A to Z of the entire offshore experience. That's
pretty good when you think about it. You've worked very hard to get them all together. Now, folks, these are experts. They're bankers and they're real estate people, this and that. It's not all about trying to flog you, real estate or just to get your investment money. It's genuinely about you perhaps wanting to move. Maybe you're retired, maybe you retire in a few years. And you're thinking, I've had it with the States here, or I'd like to move somewhere else. I'd like to go here, go there, because, it's not all jam and honey. You've got to find out. When I first went to Vanuatu, as an example, beautiful place, as Mikkel, agrees with me on that. But guess what? It took, I think it was $50,000 or $60,000 at that particular country that I needed to put into that country before I could move. And then there's other things when you get there, and then you buy real estate. Hey, you don't own it forever. It's a 90-year lease, and you got to hand it back. And there's a million things. Some countries you do, some countries you don't. I guess a lot of things, Mikkel, people worry about is health. How the hell am I going to get serviced if I get ill? How safe is it? Is someone going to come knocking on my door at night with machetes or whatever? The bank's going to take my money. What happens if a dictator comes out of nowhere? Do I lose everything I've invested? All these, normal questions, I guess. And you've heard them all.
Oh, absolutely. But I think that that's part of doing the due diligence. So you can already trust that the people who are speaking at the event are people from my personal network. So these are people that we've worked with in the past that I have no problem sending clients to. I know them on a very close basis. I trust them. We've already done a ton of the work for you. Just by listening to the people that I've gathered for this summit, you already know that you're in a much better place. Do you need to do your own due diligence? Do you need to research? Absolutely. I encourage you to. I believe in personal responsibility. But this is a fantastic starting place for anybody who wants to move offshore or be an expat, get their money outside of the country, basically diversify their life, their business, or their investments. If this speaks to you, then the summit is for you.
So listeners, you want to check it out, the Offshore Escape 2020 online summit. The dates are June 1st to the 5th. That's 4 days of incredible knowledge. It's coming your way on everything you want to know about relocating to settle in another country, generate additional streams of income perhaps. That'll be interesting. I'm going to look at that one. Eliminate your tax bill and take advantage of offshore structures so that you can travel the world freely and never have to worry about money again. Mikkel, you may have seen, I think that you shared a special offer that gives you lifetime access to the Summit VIP tickets. This is free. How are you doing this free for everybody?
Well, the nice thing about doing things digitally is we don't have the same type of overhead that you would if you were going to be putting on a in-person conference. So we don't have a big hotel room. We don't have to do coffee breaks or lunches. People don't need to fly across the world. So that saves on a lot of things. I already have, a small team of almost a dozen people who work for me. So everyone's kind of rolled up our sleeves and we've all put in the effort to put this on. And I think it's a really important topic, and I want to share it with the world. Yes, there is a paid version, as I mentioned. We've got tons of bonuses that come with it. We've got lifetime access to all of the recordings. We've got transcripts that we'll create from the presentation. So if you prefer to read, you can do that. If you want an audio-only version, we'll have it in MP3, so you can go for a run or go for the wash the dishes and things like this and listen to the programs, instead of watching the videos. So, different ways to consume it. And there's just a ton of things that are going to be included in the VIP tickets.
I really do like that idea of how you're going to keep everything in reference to all the individual guests, all their wisdom, everything they've shared and talked about. You're going to be able to get, you can get these if you want, and you can listen at your own pace, your own time, just like you listen to podcasts these days. Go for a run, mow the lawn, maybe some gardening, perhaps having a bubble bath, a nice glass of wine, at the end of the day. So they're not going to go. They're going to be there forever, technically. And that's a darn good thing. How about you mention just a few? If you want to rattle, it's fine. We've got about 5 minutes left. Give us an idea of some of the heavies you've got coming on out of the 26.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have John Perkins, who wrote Confessions of an Economic Hitman. He's become a friend of mine over the last couple of years. He's going to be speaking on June 1st. He'll be talking about taking us from a death economy to a life economy. He's an incredibly smart human being. His book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, spent 73 weeks as a New York Times bestseller. He sold literally millions of copies of his book. We have Joel Nagel, who's going to be talking about offshore structures, trusts, foundations, basically asset protection. So if you have any type of wealth, and this is not just for people who are decamillionaires, people who have hundreds of millions of dollars. This is for people who have even a modest amount of assets, and they are worried about being sued. If they're worried about the government or anything like this, how do you legally protect your assets? That's going to be a really exciting conversation. I have Erica Gemma, who's going to be talking about Bitcoin and how that works as your own bank. She's a really smart individual. She's the CEO of the Blockchain Center in Miami. We have Luigi, who's going to be talking about offshore banking and the best jurisdictions in the world for it. Lots on real estate. Mike Cobb will be talking about the biggest mistakes that people make in international real estate and how to avoid them. We have presentations on Colombia, Mexico, Belize, Nicaragua, Panama, Brazil, and several other countries in Latin America to talk about how to purchase real estate safely there, how to get a second passport in Europe, how to get a second passport in the Caribbean, or in Vanuatu. We even have, I think we have one of the speakers who will be talking about Vanuatu that you mentioned before. So quite a few things, but we'll be able to make all the connections, how they all fit together, and you'll have a real map at the end of it of what speaks to you, what doesn't speak to you, and how it all fits together.
That sounds fantastic. I'm actually looking forward to it myself. Now, for listeners, give us all the details, read the websites and the addresses that they need to jot down now.
Sure thing. So if you go to offshoreescape.com, you're going to see a page there. All you'll need to do is put in your email address and your name, and you'll have access to the free tickets, and we'll send you an email confirmation. If you decide that the VIP ticket is for you, if you're a VIP kind of guy or gal, then you can select your ticket there as well. And we start June 1st, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be running for 5 days straight, about 5 to 6 hours a day. With the free ticket, you'll have access for that entire day to watch the presentation. So even if you come 10 minutes late or something, or half an hour late, that's no problem. You can still watch it. And then after 24 hours, all the free tickets, all of the presentations will be locked away, and the only way to get access to them will be on the VIP.
Okay, and what date is that starting now? What is the first day?
June 1st, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. When you sign in, it'll actually calculate for you based on your time zone. So if you're based out of LA or if you're based out of Europe or something, it'll convert the whole thing at a...
Oh, that's terrific. That's good. So mine and Mountain Standard Time. So now what day is that again, though? What day itself?
Monday.
It's a Monday, and it'll go Monday through Friday. That's a whole week, isn't it? That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things to cover. These are going to be full days. I really encourage people to get a pen and paper.
Oh, yeah, you need a darn pad.
There's going to be a lot of stuff covered here.
I hope you have potty breaks, will you? That's a long time to be sitting there, my friend.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, that's also why people, if they get information overload, then there is an option to upgrade to get the lifetime access, and you can spread out the videos over the next month or so.
Right.
We're sharing a lot of knowledge here, and if this is the first time for someone, there's going to be a lot of really new insights that they're gonna see.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's so good about Panama at the moment as a matter of interest? It's from what I read or hear, it's safe. Number one.
Yeah. Panama's a safe country. The biggest thing going on here is, a lot of people think it's the Panama Canal, which is massively important, but it's really the banking sector here. They have a huge financial sector, which really helps all of Latin America. A lot of the banking goes through here. It's a safe country. It's not too big. The weather is stunning, beautiful, 7 days a week. It does get a little bit hot, but I actually like the hot weather. I'm from southwestern Ontario. I never want to see snow again, unless I've got skis on my feet,
We have people called snowbirds, that come to Arizona.
Exactly.
And our weather today, beautiful, 78, 80 degrees, and here it is, not quite summer yet. We will get to 110, 120, but it's dry heat, and that's beautiful. I mean, I miss the ocean terribly coming from Australia, but you can't have everything.
The ocean right now.
All right.
On the balcony of my apartment.
It's fabulous. So, and what's your little girl's name again, or your children?
I have a little girl. She's 4 years old.
Okay, and what was her name?
Eleanor,
right. Eleanor, 4 years old. Lovely.
Yeah, Eleanor.
Well, what an education. My granddad once said to me and my grandma when I was very young, the best education you're ever going to get is travel.
That's true.
And I
agree
think
with
they're
him.
right. Well, that's going to be fantastic. It's been great speaking with you. It's Mikkel Thorup, ladies and gentlemen, the publisher of Escape Artist. He's the CEO and chief cook and bottle washer, everything else. But he's putting on this incredible show for 5 days, an online summit with the best of the best in all the areas that you need. I mean, when you talk overseas travel, and I mean, you got your money to think about, housing to think about, your health to think about, security, not just the blessed travel. It's everything else, so that you can live a wonderful life and live healthier and save a lot of money or make more money and just generally enjoy life better. And it's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to it. All right, Mikkel, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving me your time. And I wish you well with this.
Thanks so much, Mark. It was really a pleasure. I appreciate it.
You've got it. Mikkel Thorup, publisher of escapeartist.com.